Giants fans, what is going on? This is the episode that you guys have all been waiting for, the most important episode of this year. And honestly, if we were doing this specific episode for the last 10 years, they would all be the most important one too. We are going over the number one position the Giants have absolutely sucked at since when, Truth? When was the last time we had a good offensive line?
Since they won the Super Bowl, or even the year after when they should have made it to the Super Bowl. 2012, right?
Yeah, I'll actually go one step further. My thought on this is that the last year the Giants had a great offensive line was the year before we won that last Super Bowl. I thought 2010 was when we still had O'Hara and we still had Soybert. The next year, it actually regressed a little bit. Eli had a surprisingly great season under a pretty okay offensive line. Then they played pretty good when you needed them to. Then 2013 came around, and all of a sudden it's been downhill ever since, and it's never recovered.
Yep.
We've had draft, Pugh. We've had Flowers. We've had guys come and go. And
Westberg.
Yeah. And then we sign these guys like Solder. They don't do anything for us, man. And it pisses me off because it's 5 guys. We need at least I always think that everybody has to be at least average, like middle of the pack for all the starters in the NFL. And then at least 2 or 3 guys that can make the Pro Bowl. They don't have to do it every year, but they can make the Pro Bowl. I think the Giants in the 2000s had the right recipe. Truth, tell me what happened. I miss the days of a big beefy offensive line.
Ernie Accorsi really emphasized the offensive line because he realized he had to protect Eli Manning, who was the most important piece of that team. And when Jerry Reese came, he really did not try to restack that. And the guys got old. The offensive line got old. Then he tried to piece it together, and sometimes you just don't get the right guys when you get them in there. Like I see David Boss, he was a pretty decent player, but there were so many bad players that Jerry Reese tried to bring in here, either by drafting or free agency. And unfortunately, continuing with Gettleman, which I'm disappointed. I really thought he was going to turn this team around based on his history.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you that I thought Gettleman would have had a better eye, at least for that position. And boy, was I wrong. I mean, about that. And actually, Zane, you're a point here because I feel like David Boss is the first of many Giants players where we got rid of a guy that was pretty good, and in turn, we brought in somebody that not bad, but was a regressing point. I feel like the Giants did that at every position during the 2010s. I felt like it just kept on going downhill there in the last couple of years of Coughlin.
Yeah, it did. It did. They got old. Everyone's going to get old. That's what happens.
Everybody gets old, but when you don't replace them with young talent, man, you are in a bad situation.
That's right.
But anyway, look, guys, we're going to dive into it. We have John Esposito supposed to join us tonight. We'll see if he's able to hop in.
Hope he's okay.
Absolutely. But me and Truth, going back to day one now with this podcast and season 1 of the draft analysis for the Giants guys. This is the most important episode, like we said, and we're going to go right into it. We've been waiting for this episode the whole time. We didn't do this one earlier because we wanted to kind of get our wits and make sure we know how we wanted to proceed since this is such an important position.
Yeah.
But look, I will start it right off. The first guy that I personally want to go over is Linderbaum out of Iowa. Truth, my personal feeling about Linderbaum is that even though he is let me get the banner up. There we go. Even though Linderbaum is an interior lineman, I think he's the best interior lineman in the NFL draft since Quentin Nelson. When I watch tape, I think he is absolutely dominant on the line of scrimmage. I think he shows what it takes that he is going to be a day one starter. Now, Zane is in this group chat. He is in the comments. I know he's not too high on Linderbaum because of the size. My thing about him is he's only a little bit smaller than most average centers. And quite honestly, if you're dominating at that level, even in college where they're still pretty big, and you're not having a problem pushing around these big guys, and he's going against Big Ten defensive linemen, I think he's going to translate to the NFL just fine. I just don't really remember too many situations where a very strong prospect like this had a slight size problem and it turned into a serious problem in the NFL. If they're dominating, they're going to play well in the NFL. Truth, I think and unlike a lot of Giants fans, it's very controversial. I wouldn't mind him with the 7th pick, even if we got another lineman at 5. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, look, I was pushing from Linderbaum earlier on for a long time. Everything you said is true. The guy is so efficient technique wise. He's a very smart football player. When you watch film on him, and I probably watched about 6 football games on with him. He doesn't miss assignments. He knows what he's doing. He's the quarterback on the offensive line, and I totally agree. He will start day one. The old textbook. He's still too small. You know what? He utilizes his body. He has great leverage. He plays bigger than he is 290. He plays bigger. He's quick. I mean, when was the last time? I think we had Dave Deal on the show, and Dave Deal loved him. And he raved about a particular play. He was all the way down the field, 40-plus yards down the field, leading in a block for the running back. I mean, how many linemen do you see doing that, really?
You don't really see it very often out of centers. No. They're not even supposed to be downfield half the time, right?
No.
I mean, hey, if they get down there, nobody's going to complain.
No, I mean, listen, he's lethal in the trenches as a blocker. He's open field. He can block. Will the Giants draft him at 7? No, it's not going to happen now.
I don't think so. A lot of people are talking like trade back to get him, but you're right.
Yes, trade back possible. Who knows? But they've added 2 guys now. They got Feliciano. They got the kid Garcia, who has that. There's still hope for, Gates to come back maybe next year.
Right. I love my guy Gates, and he can play guard, so that's why if we got him in that we move Gates around. He's done everything for us so far. It's like make that guy start from scratch right after finally getting his
He's a day deal of the 21st century.
Exactly, man. Exactly. But I think he's a dominant player. He played at Iowa. They always produce good offensive linemen. They rely on offensive linemen. More so than any other program, right? Ohio State, they always have decent linemen, but like
Wisconsin, that's another good school for linemen.
It's a good school for linemen, but they're really focused on that air raid offense. That's the most important thing to them. Iowa's got to go with the talent that they got in the state. A lot of former wrestlers there that also play.
He was a wrestling champion.
Yeah, and I think he took down the Werfs. I think he took down
Christian Werf.
Yeah. So hey, look, if he's taking down Werfs, I can deal with taking a center that early. But anyway, let's get into it because I know we want to hear about some of the tackles. Daniel, I just want to see what you say. Wouldn't hate a trade back if a defensive player isn't there at 7. Hopefully Neal or Icky is there at 5.
Yeah.
I'm with you. And that's something we have to get into, but with you. All right. Next player.
Yeah.
Big, nasty, and a great guy too. Ekwonu out of North Carolina State. He plays a very beautiful, flawless, all-around football game. Mm-hmm. He's a great pass blocker. And what's interesting about him, and this is what I always like about guys that really come onto the scene a little bit later, right? Coming into the season, all we really talked about was Neal a little bit more so than Ekwonu. Last few months, people started to watch tape, and it's like, man, this guy's really come together, and he's a full package there. In the ACC, they have to go against really tough edges a lot of the time. He's played against some solid competition. He was a great player all around, and I think he's got great ability to move around, and I think he's going to transition very well into the NFL. And there is some debate. Now, I think Neal is still probably the favorite if I were to do a poll, but a lot of people want Ekwonu at 5, even over Evan Neal. Truth, man, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, listen, I like Ekwonu. Like you said earlier on, he was looked upon like a late first round, and then slowly, little by little, he kind of creeping down the draft board. And I tell you, I knew once the combine, he was going to shoot. He was going to rise up those boards. And I watched about 5 games of his, and the only player that I saw that dominated him, and it was funny, I think Giant Wire had that on, a little clip today on that, was Jermaine Johnson. Jermaine Johnson had a great game against him. But other than that, Icky did a great job this year. And, he's a plug-and-play guy. And now, will he play tackle? Will he play guard? There's debate there. And I'll let the coaches and the head coach decide on that. But either way, I think he's going to be a good pro for a decade, barring injuries. And whoever gets him is going to have a good player.
I'm with you. I think he's a solid player all around. And look, if the Giants do, I mean, I don't see a situation where both of them are going to be available. But
no, I don't think so.
I hope if they go lineman at 5, which I think they will, unless the edges slide, that they get one of those two, Ekwonu or Neal. We'll get to Neal because, Neal is the front runner. We'll get to
right.
But the next guy I want to go to, let's go to a smaller school. Let's go to Central Michigan. We got Bernard Raimann. Now, here's what's interesting about this guy, and you're starting to see this a lot more in the NFL. A lot of the guys that develop from during college, they'll come in as tight ends, and then they'll become offensive tackles. And it's very common at Wisconsin. But here's a guy that came in at Central Michigan, right? And he's really anchored a program that otherwise, they're not a great program, but he's done an excellent job there. He's good at both pass and rush. He was able to develop at a very rapid rate at his position, so he came together very nicely. Again, he was a tight end, became a dominant blocker. He's got a clean playing game. He rarely gets penalties, which, I hate to say it, it's like you really want a guy that dominates no matter what, but no, it's next to no penalties is something that we can totally accept as New York Giants fans. Even in the 2000s, those guys got penalties, man. They always struggled with those penalties. Truth, I don't know what your thoughts are on Bernard, man.
No, I like him. He's a good player. I see him going probably in the second round. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think he's like 23 years old. But he's a big boy. And if you look at this draft class of tackles, and especially, we got a lot of big guys, 6'7", 6'8". These guys are growing like trees,
Were there this many 6'7" guys around like 40 years ago? I do kind of love this sometimes.
Yeah, Herman Munster was the only guy that was that big, back in those days. But Bernard, he's a good player. He's very athletic, like you said, and I think he's going to transition well in the NFL. Maybe he got to get a little bit stronger. Pick up the speed of the NFL, which they all have to do, get adjusted to it. But I think whoever takes him is going to have a good lineman.
And it's okay if some of these linemen aren't ready day one. I mean, they take a year to develop. Now, that second year, they got to be showing it. But again, if their biggest need is to put on more muscle, that's a lot easier than having to get better with speed.
Yeah,
the focus, their ability to swivel on and downfield. That stuff's not going to change at this point.
Yeah, and all these guys are going to go into a good conditioning program, whether they need to let it get bigger or maintain their weight. Like certain guys who are pretty big, and we'll talk about them. They're going to have to maintain their weight, So
absolutely. Real quick, I saw Authentics in here. This is awesome. He's a guy that I go back and forth with a lot on Twitter. We'll even disagree a lot of times, but you know what? He's always there bringing the heat. He's always got some good views. Authentic, I'm glad that you are in the house right now, man. I love to see it. Let me get the banner going for the next guy here, because I got to make sure I'm spelling his last name correctly. But we're going with another Midwestern guy, big guy out of Minnesota, Mr. Faalele.
Yeah, Faalele. Yep.
Look,
Daniel, right? Daniel?
Yes. When you're talking 6'8" and partially 6'9", right? I mean, it depends on what measuring. It depends on who's measuring him, but he has been measured in both. And 384 pounds. This guy is an all-around just enormous prospect, and he does show some dominance on the field. I feel like if he develops a little bit more, we might have like an Orlando Pace. This guy is freaking huge. A lot of 6'8", 6'9", they don't carry it too well. A little bit too loose. They don't have coordination. It's not his problem, man.
No, he's. I mean, like I talked about earlier, you don't see any muffins on the side of his waist.
No.
He's put together pretty good for a guy that big. And when you watch him, he moves pretty well. He does, like a lot of guys have problems with a quick edge rusher. But listen, you can't win them all. You're gonna get beat, and usually with a small, quick edge rusher, they will take advantage. But he's a big guy. whoever gets him, you can work with him, develop him. He could be a good player.
I think a lot of offensive lineman coaches are looking at this guy and thinking to themselves, man, I would love to just give this guy the direction that he needs to really put it all together and make him that elite offensive tackle. I would love to. If I was an offensive line coach, I just saw like a little bit of the technique could be tweaked. Oh, hell yeah. That's the guy I want to get.
And where do you see him going? You see him going like late second, around that area, early third, or early in that?
That's a good question. I think he's probably going to go in the third. I think early third. Again, he's not. There's a lot of good offensive linemen drafts, a lot of good other players, and I just feel like it's going to be one of those things where once you get past the day one starters, this might be the guy, right? Some developmental capabilities. That's what they're going to look at him for. But yeah, and actually, fun fact: he's from Melbourne, Australia lately, and sometimes you hear that these guys are coming from areas where they didn't have football growing up. It's always kind of interesting when they just come to America and they bring it together. I think the Eagles have a guy that is from Australia. I forget the player, but heck, I don't even know if he played football before coming to the NFL.
I wonder if this guy played rugby.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that guy playing rugby?
Oh my God, man! It would be so hard to bring him down.
We got our friend from Italy tuning in just now.
Yeah.
Rugby guy.
Dudo, what's going on, man? Yeah. But anyway, the last guy that I want to bring up for now is a very important prospect that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
I think, and I really want you deep diving on this because when we first talked about doing this show, we were on the phone and we were talking the Wyman show. And this is the first guy he actually brought up to me. He's like, when I look at players, I want to watch the full game tape because that's how I find guys like these. Trevor Penning, right? Northern Illinois? Northern Iowa. So,
Northern Iowa, yeah.
Yeah. And you just look at a guy like this, and then you're right. I watched the full game tape, and then here we got a guy that's just, playing very fundamental football, gritty, quickness. He's locking and loading with those punches and jabs and whatnot. He's a really good player, man. And for the Giants fans watching right now, if you want to look at a prospect that's just like, damn, this guy is under the radar, you have to look him up. But Truth, I want you talking about this guy. You found him first.
Well, yeah, that was a while ago. He's just a mean guy.
Yeah,
he's a mean guy. He will need to tone that down a little bit. The NFL. We had a guest on, I think, 2 weeks ago, who talked about he had 16 penalties in his conference, and I think that's due to technique and a little sloppy sometimes. But he's big, he's strong, he's athletic. I think he ran a 4. You could correct me. I think a 4.8 or something like that in the combine, and he did very well in the combine, and he showed a lot of agility. Yeah, I think he's going to be a kind of guy that, and I think he's going to get drafted within the top 15. If he slides a little bit past that, yeah, right, I could see that. But a team like the Chargers, they need another tackle. I think the Chargers are at 14. If I'm not mistaken.
He is excellent value if he slips past, like down to the mid rounds. I mean, if there's a team that's a lineman or two away from just having a really good set, I mean, they know where to go. But yeah, they're gonna have to drill it into the head, like, hey man, you can't be.
And he'll learn. Listen.
I am hoping so, but I feel like guys that get penalties a lot, and Zane's actually kind of just mentioned it here. I do always feel like guys that get penalties, it's a little bit tough for them because it's sometimes I feel like it's almost like a mental attitude thing. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but
no. Listen, he plays mad, he plays mean, and you kind of like to see that. Like in the combine, he threw. I think that was Tyreek Smith, Ohio State. He threw him to the ground like he was, and that guy's like 260-pound man. He threw him down the ground like a little kid.
Yeah,
and he just has to tone it down a bit, and that's going to come, with the coaching, and he'll learn. And listen, if the team gets in the middle of the first round, they're going to have a good player. Just have to be patient and let them develop a little bit.
Yep, I hear you. Truth, man, we have just run through my top 5 guys. I think any of those players, what I love is like any of those players, they can kill it.
Yeah, you got great guys there. Very deep draft.
Yeah, like I feel. I mean, I'll be real with you. Like when we were going through the linebackers for this year's draft, I'm just kind of like, you get to that like fourth or fifth guy, and it's like, I'm
you're
sure
struggling.
might be just fine someday. But we're here. It's just like, oh hell yeah, man! I forgot we're even going over Penning tonight. We got Penning. We got Linderbaum. But truth, onto your guys. Let's just get the holy grail of the 2022 draft lineman out of the way right now. Evan Neal, take it away. What are your thoughts on the next Jesus Christ of offensive tackles?
Listen, from day one, he was the number one tackle. A lot of times, if you look at mocks, he's going the first overall. He could go to the Giants at 5. He's going to go somewhere in that 1 through 5. The kid's big. The kid can play both left and right tackle. The kid is mobile, very athletic. He's another plug and play guy, and he's going to be a good player. If he goes to the Giants, it's going to be right tackle. He can certainly play left tackle if someone else drafts him. He's what else can you say about him? He's that good. He's going to be a good player, really good player. And hopefully he's a Giant, either him or Iki. That's what I'm looking for.
I would love it. And Ekwonu, I do think that Neal is still a little bit better just because he's more all around dominant. Granted, offensive lineman, pass blocking wise, it might start drawing it a little bit closer. But I just feel like Neal is just that guy that he's going to get out there, and we're going to have him and Andrew Thomas, and I just feel like there's no worries with Evan Neal. He's just going to dominate.
Yeah.
He's
a real deal.
Alabama has been producing some serious offensive line in the past 5 years. I don't remember them being an offensive lineman powerhouse in the first 7 years of Saban. But it's kind of transitioned to that point where it's like they always got some big guys in that offensive line that
I know
the offense in the NFL.
Yeah.
You're dominating the SEC as an offensive lineman. There's almost no questions asked. So he's
you look at the tape on him, and he had a good game against Elite. Played in the SEC, especially played Georgia twice this year. He did pretty well.
Yeah,
he went against Trevor Tyrell Walker. They battled, and he actually won that battle.
I think we've talked about like 7 of those Georgia players, man. Yeah. That was a tough defense to go against. And again, it's somebody had a very good point. Actually, no, there was a player that Saban recruited that he, and the recruit actually filmed what Saban was saying in like his sales pitch to come to Alabama. And you're not supposed to do that. You shouldn't do that. That's very stupid. He probably didn't get a scholarship offer, but we all wanted to see what it looked like. And the argument for Alabama was something that I never thought about. It's that, you're going to get that argument from a coach from a mid-tier school that says you're going to start more here at Alabama or instead of going to Alabama. But the benefit you get out of Alabama is every single day in practice, you are going against guys that are going to go to the NFL, and that is going to make you that much better. And that was something I just didn't really think about that. And let's remember, Alabama produces some serious defensive players too.
Sure do.
Toss around in practice. So, Evan Neal's the real deal. I think he's the best in the draft. But again, it doesn't drop off seriously hard after Neal. I will say that. Right.
It does. All right. Next guy.
Who do you want next, Truth?
Give me whoever you got. Give me Green. Give me Green.
You want Green? Okay. Yeah. All right, man.
Kenyon Green out of Texas A&M. His stock is kind of falling a little bit, I noticed. Now he's shown being picked somewhere in the 20th to the 30th and possibly out of the second round. Can you imagine if he falls to the Giants at 2? If that happened and they got one of these tackles at 5 and he falls at 2 at 36, that's going to be very tempting to get him and a tackle in the first 2 rounds.
Yeah.
I mean, you're looking at a kid who's a 5-star player out of high school and can play guard and tackle. And he's plays tackle for Texas A&M, but he's going to probably transition to guard. He's 6'4", about 325. Very powerful, especially his lower body. He's a bulldozer in the running game. He's fairly good in the passing, and he just needs maybe a little more work technique-wise. But again, a lot of them do. So to me, it's not a big deal. He'll learn like everybody else in the NFL when you get good coaching. He's a good player, and I'll tell you, if he falls into the Giants at 36, that's a strong consideration. It really is. So, but I still think he's gonna land somewhere between 20 and maybe 20 and 27, something around there. I think he's gonna land.
So why are people saying that he's going to drop? What happened?
That's a good question. He didn't have a great combine, so I don't know if that's it. He didn't have a good 40, but you know what? That doesn't impress me so much because these guys are in the trenches. They don't have to go far, you know.
Right. Sometimes it's really hard to get a gauge with the 40 because some people might have a very fast 40, like because you're running in a straight line there, and football is really three-dimensional in terms of, you got to move around, and moving sideways is extremely critical in football. It's very tough to measure that. And I remember an incident, and this is off offensive lineman, but like Deshaun Jackson. I don't think he had a particularly good I don't think he had a particularly good 40-yard time, but his ability to move sideways and shift, it's kind of what made him a good player. So I'm not too worried if a guy really bombed it with the 40. Although if it's really, really bad, I might be saying, oh, okay, what precisely happened here?
Well, if you're saying the high fives, that's a different story.
Yeah,
but I can see Green going to like the Cowboys at 24.
Yeah,
I think because they definitely can use some interior linemen.
Absolutely. All
right.
Kinnard? All right, man.
Darian Kinnard.
Wait, what'd you say?
I said, no, Darian Kinnard. Big boy. These guys are all big, man. This guy is like 6'5", 345. Big boy. Had a good up and down senior week. He got toasted by Jermaine Johnson in the one-on-one drills, but who didn't? You know? He had a 89 rating in the run game in college. Very good run blocker. And you're probably going to see a lot of these guys be successful run blockers in the NFL, aside for a few guys in the passing. But here's another kid who I don't know if he's going to be a guard or a tackle. They're talking about that as well, transition to guard. It all depends who drafts him, what that team's needs are. But he's another good player, and I see him. I think he's going to slip into the second round. I think he's going to go to the second round early.
Man, how many guys? Well, maybe I could say this for you at the end. No, let's get it out because I got questions I want to ask you. But here's one that popped in my head. How many guys go in the first round?
How many offensive linemen?
Yeah.
Let's see. You got Icky, you got Neal, we haven't gotten to Cross yet. You got Cross. You got I think another guy we're going to talk about, Johnson. I think he goes. Linderbaum is going to go. And some guys maybe in the late round, maybe 6 to 7 guys offensive line could go.
It's pretty significant.
Yeah.
We're talking about almost a quarter of the position.
And you're going to see a ton go on day 2.
Yeah. That's what I expect in that second round there.
Yeah, a ton of them.
All right. Well, then let's get to that guy. Then you mentioned Cross. How about we talk about Cross?
Okay.
My big guy out of Mississippi State. I liked him a lot.
Yeah.
When I watched that tape, man, big, and he still looks like he can put on muscle too.
Yeah, he can get bigger. Everybody thinks I don't like the guy. It's not that I don't like him. I just think that Icky and Neal are better than him and can be plug and play. I think Cross might need a little more development. Needs to get stronger, lower body for running. Didn't do a lot of that in that style of offense they played at Mississippi State. So,
what is their style? I always kind of feel like the SEC runs a standard offense, but
they did a lot of passing on that team.
Oh, a lot of passing.
He did a lot of passing. So he is a very good pass protector. He's very good. Great technique. His footwork, hand placement, he's very good. He's just got to learn to get a little stronger, and that takes time to get better as a run blocker. But again, he'll be the third guy off the board. He'll be the third tackle off the board.
A lot of people will say that run blocking is irrelevant these days, and that's just not true. I mean, you
no.
I want at least can they be middle of the pack compared to the rest of the NFL in running blocking, and then at that point, if they're a dominant offensive tackle passing wise, then so be it. The Browns guy, I'm drawing a blank on his name, Joe
Thomas.
Yes, perfect example. He was probably the best pass blocker of all time. his run blocking was atrocious, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
He's going to go in the Hall of Fame, isn't he?
What's that?
He's going to be a Hall of Fame, you think? Pretty close, right?
Yeah, definitely. He went so many snaps there without missing a beat.
I know, that's amazing. That's amazing.
He played for horrible teams, man. Those Browns were. I mean, we still make fun of the Browns, and they're successful now. You remember how bad they were those years?
Yeah, that's amazing that he played injury-free for all those years.
Injury-free and at a Hall of Fame level, and he never left. He never left.
No, not at all. Well, look, Cross is not bad as a
sure. But
he's just, I just think now he's going to go to the next level. He's going to be playing against some men, not boys. He's going to be a little stronger, and he will. Weight training and conditioning and nutrition. He'll get bigger. What is he, about 315? I think. Let me look. Yeah, about 315. He'll probably shoot up to 325, easily. So he'll be fine. He just probably needs a little bit longer.
Yeah.
To get there. That's all.
Yep, and that could, and it's one of those things, again, like if they were really bad pass blocking and they were dominating it, or they were bad run blockers and they were dominating at pass blocking, we'd look at it differently. But, when there's still some room for development in that department, you might say, well,
And let me ask you something. And, this could happen. That's why I don't envy Shane. What if Icky and Neal are gone by 5? What are you going to do?
They have to consider trading back. I mean, maybe at least with the 5th one, with 7, you get Jermaine Johnson, and then
trade back a little bit, and you can still get Cross at maybe 10. You could still get him. I don't know if you trade back to who. Maybe Seattle might want to trade up, get a quarterback, or trade back to 9, or.
What if at that point you just go 2 best players available at any position, and then the rest of the draft just get all these offensive linemen that we have? just grab it.
Beef it up.
Yeah, I just feel like Shane's like, one of these guys has to freaking do something for us.
Well, look,
like that's what's going to be.
Look, I'm not a big thing with the cornerbacks, because I'd rather have a pass rusher who can make the quarterback rush the throws than have a cornerback cover the guy for 5 seconds, but I understand if 7 comes and Gardner's sitting there and Cross is sitting there, and you already got, let's say, Johnson at 5, like you said. That's a tough one. You got to, on paper, what's his name is a better player. Gardner is, of course. I get it.
Now, granted, at that point, you just throw in the towel and just realize Daniel Jones.
Just close your eyes and just point.
I'm doing crushing it, and we are going to suck next year. But we'll have the foundations for a better football team when we have Sauce and Jermaine Johnson. Unless they're both bust, then we're just in deep shit. Oh, man.
Okay, we got the last guy on my list.
All right, let's.
And don't forget, I got this guy who I didn't think much of him way back. We're talking about early fall. I didn't. Then I started watching some film. I read some articles. Then I started watching more film on him and Zion Johnson. The guy played all 5 positions. All right, very versatile. He's gonna transition to a guard. He has to. That's his most experience, and size-wise, that fits him. Still needs to get a little bigger, I think. Weighs 315. You're in there against the big nose tackles. You got to get a little bit more size. But he's very quick, great technique. I think he's a good player, and he's another guy who will probably be a plug-and-play guy the minute he gets drafted.
Yeah.
Which will probably be somewhere in the middle to late first round.
Oh, he's really that good then. Okay.
Yeah, I think 20 to 25 he could get drafted. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, hey, look, I mean, Florida State's not the powerhouse that they were 7-8 years ago, right? But it doesn't really matter in this guy's case. I mean, we got a guy that has some serious talent. I just didn't think that he was going to go in the first. I didn't realize that he was even slated to go that early.
Well, he's picking up steams based on his performance at the senior week and in the combine. So, and again, we don't know what's going to happen. Some guys fall, some guys rise in the draft. So no one thought Ojulari was going to be picked in the 40th overall pick. We all thought he was going 19th or something, right? So we don't know.
Yep.
We don't know. Now, do you have a sleeper? Did you have a chance to look that over?
Penning kind of was my guy, but I think it was everybody's guy, so he's not a sleeper anymore. So he wrote one out of it for me. You do have a sleeper.
Yeah, let me pick 2 sleepers since
right now. You got 2.
Well, John's not here, so let me pick 2.
All right.
My first sleeper is Luke Fortner out of Kentucky. The kid plays center and guard, but he's probably going to play center at the NFL. Big boy, around 6'6". Needs to put a little size on him, like 300, 305, but he's a good athlete, very sound technician-wise. And they had a pretty good offensive line, that Kentucky team. And
yeah, they're becoming a weird, decent powerhouse for offensive linemen. They're not really
they are
anything.
And I can see him. He's definitely going to be a day 3. I don't see him get drafted on the first 2 days. Now, will he get drafted in round 4? He could mid round, or he could make it to early 5th round. It all depends on who's on the board, how the draft's unfolding. A lot of things can happen, but I like the kid. I think he's a good player. He's got a good head and shoulders. So that's one of my sleepers. Another guy who I discovered him in the senior week. I didn't know much about him, but he did so well in the senior week. He had a 99.9 rating in block passing against some of the best defensive players, defensive linemen. So to put that in perspective, at 49 snaps, he only lost 2. Okay, the kid's name is Cordell Volston out of North Dakota State.
Well, no wonder we didn't watch any tape of him. I don't even know if they film games up there. They do it on radio. No, I can't.
Oh, they do.
No, and that was a terrible school to use as an example because North Dakota State's typically better than most FBS teams. So,
yeah,
I don't know if you remember a few years ago. This is the stupidest thing ever. Iowa paid North Dakota State the year after they won one of their many FCS championship games. They paid North Dakota State to come to Iowa and play them in a game of football, right? Because that's what you have to do with the FCS teams. You got to pay them. And they lost. And it was one of those things where, I don't really think that was even an upset. We just wanted to see what would happen because I was ranked 16. Okay, North Dakota State's king of FCS. What would happen if you matched, those two up together? And it's not really relevant for this player, but I will say that's what makes you realize, these guys can play. These guys are talented. They're not consistently going against the best of the best, right? When they're playing South Dakota State, they're not going against elite defensive ends.
Right.
But they got players that, they can play with the big boys. And a lot of them have come to fruition out of North Dakota State the last few years.
Yeah, and, this is a guy who I'm not saying he's going to be a day 2 pick. I see him being a late day 3 pick. And who knows, he could fall in the UDFA category. I don't know, but sure. He's got good size and he's big and strong. He's got pretty good footwork and technique. It's something that you would love to grab and try to teach if you're a offensive line coach. Guys like this. So I think there's going to be a ton of them. There's so many guys we didn't even talk about that are so good, and
so
probably
many
guys who are listening probably pulling the hair out of their head. Why didn't you talk about this guy or that guy?
Well, actually, it's very funny you say that. We got Zane in the comments right now. Zane brought up a guy, and if you
Donovan West, I see it.
West, do you want to talk? We're doing very good with time. We typically have a problem with that on New York Giants Rush. So we're doing very good tonight. So sure, we'll take questions from the audience right now.
He's a good player, Zane. Donovan West is a good player. I know Zane likes him because we talked about him in our last podcast. We had the guest on. Good player, pretty decent size. I think he's like 6'3" or 6'4", 315. I'm going off my memory. Good player, and he can play both center and guard. But so wherever he could play, and this is there's a lot of guys in this draft who are multi-position. A lot of guys could play either guard or tackle or center or guard. A lot of them. So very versatile group of guys who got it.
Yep.
Zane's looking through the website now. And he's picking out players. Abraham Lucas out of Washington State, another big boy, 6'7". I don't know what they eat.
To cover him pretty badly tonight.
Yeah, I know.
They had to narrow down the list.
He's a good player.
Yeah, he's a good player. I feel like at some point Zane's gonna pop like a random name in there, and we're not gonna it'll be like a fake name, and we'll be like,
no,
yeah, he's
he ain't gonna pull that off. I ain't gonna fall for that.
Just to see if we're paying attention.
Abraham, he just did. Look. Oh wait. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the kid out of Georgia. Jamari, first name.
Jamari Salyer?
Yeah, he's a good player. He's another good player. That's probably going to go around. I would say round 3. Big boy, come on, Drew. I know my.
There we go. But all right, hey, we are doing great on time, but let's get into this because we typically run out of time. We don't really have the proper time to go over these, but I want to go over them with you. I know you had some questions lined up for truth or fiction, right? I don't know if you still have your questions. I actually do.
I do.
You do? All right, then. Look, I want to ask you a question first, if that's cool.
Okay.
We'll alternate here. Truth or fiction? The Giants will land 2 offensive linemen in the first round.
Fiction.
Fiction. Okay. All right. Some people want it. I won't mind it. I
would have said truth about a month and a half ago.
What's that?
I would have said truth about a month and a half to 2 months ago.
When they got Glowinski, I kind of said, you know what? Maybe not.
Yeah.
So, there's and Zane says fiction as well. Yeah. I would have to imagine that they're going to want the best lineman available and then the best player available at 5 and 7. I think that's where they're going to go.
Could be. Yeah.
Trade back. They're happening, but people are typically a lot of people didn't trade out in the last couple of years, and that's kind of because you typically only trade up now if you want a quarterback. So the options are barely there. Right.
You got to hope a team wants to trade up, and it's another thing. We talked about this too. That Shea's gonna have to come up with some money somewhere because those first 2 picks, 5 and 7, it cost him around $12 million to the cap hit. So
right.
We always wonder about the cap, but they always manage to find the money.
They figure it out. It's just unfortunate that sometimes the problem when we get in these situations is that the Giants have to cut the best players.
Yeah.
Right? Even if the players aren't, the problem is they're good, but they're not playing up to $15 million good. But we cut them, but then we don't replace them with good talent, and then we restart the cycle over again.
Let me ask you a question. Would you think about? I know Shane has talked about not doing this, restructuring contracts. The Giants are supposed to have $98 million next year in cap space. If he restructures like a Jackson and Leonard Williams, and even if he keeps Bradbury and restructures it, I think one of those guys he has to extend. He can't restructure, but you're looking at the cap space going from 98 to about 83 million next year. So he's adding about 15 to 17 million this year.
Yeah.
Would you be good with that, knowing that you're taking about 17 million off for next year?
And you're pushing it to next year is what you're saying, right?
No, you're actually taking some for this year by restructuring. They have 98 million next year. If he restructures, that's going to go down. The guys I named, that's going to go down to 83 million.
In cap, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I would do that. I'd do that in a heartbeat. To not lose Bradbury. Look, I have a bad feeling Bradbury just had a bad, a slightly worse than typical year. And do we want to lose our cornerback 1?
A lot of guys had bad years on our team. They can't trade them all.
No, we can't. Right? We can't. Real quick, Mark Thompson's with us. Mark, what's going on, man? We are glad you could join.
Hey, Mark.
He was on the show last night, too. We always appreciate when you come on.
Look at this. Zane wants these guys gone. Who's he talking about?
He's talking about us.
He wants Bradbury gone. I
don't like it. I don't like losing the cornerback 1. We're losing a guy that you can't replace right away.
Yeah. So anyway, so you had your question. Let me give you one of mine, and mine are pretty generic and not much to think about. Would you see one of these rookies making the Pro Bowl next year? That we talked about.
One of them will. We have a really good offensive line class. Tough to tell if they're going to be like the best. I mean, the best I could remember was 2007. That was an unbelievable class. But I do see probably 2, possible 2 max make the Pro Bowl, but I definitely feel like at least one of them will.
Okay.
I'm trying to do the math. The proper math here is what are the odds of every single one of these guys not making the Pro Bowl? And just there's so much talent here that I'd find it hard to believe that not a single guy just cranked in year one and just killed them all four. So there's definitely one.
I definitely see that as a truth.
Yep. Here's a question for you. I said the Giants get 2 linemen. Let's take that out of the equation. What are the odds, and this is not really a good scenario, if 2 linemen get taken before 5? Assuming it's probably Neal and Ekwonu, what are the odds that happens?
I think they're pretty good. I think that could happen. I mean, I am hoping, the entertainer, Chris, he brought up a really good scenario. I am hoping the Jets, because of all the influx of wide receivers they have now, are in the AFC East. I am hoping that they have to take like Gardner at 4. I am hoping that that would free up possibly one of those tackles.
Yep.
But I think it's truth. It's a possibility. I'll just say 50-50 that top 2 tackles could be gone before we pick.
How pissed would we be, though? Because we're going to do it, guys. Everybody who's watching right now that doesn't already know, we know we've been in communication with you. We're going to do a live draft show. There might be some expletives mentioned that in the scenario, like if like Neal goes at 1, it's like uh-oh. And then
that's right. He goes 1.
God Almighty, we would be so livid.
Let me tell you something.
They don't get Sauce or Jermaine Johnson. They just go for some scrub.
It's going to be intense. The draft is going to be intense when we're sitting there, all of us, and we're waiting for that number 5 pick coming. It's going to be intense, especially if we know who's off the board. I'll tell you, I'm going to be on pins and needles because, look, I'll trust Shane, but I got my guys in my head, and he certainly knows a lot more than I do.
Right.
So leaving to expose Jackson's. Yeah, who said that? Mark. Good point, Mark. That's a good point.
Yep.
You can't expect Gardner, if he's the guy, to come in day 1 and be like a stud. At a which is really probably the second hardest position, aside from quarterback, as a rookie to come in and play, right? That maybe left tackle.
The hardest position to come into as a rookie and actually dominate. I don't know.
On defense, right?
Yeah. I mean, well, the quarterback, you could always say quarterback too, but I mean, just cornerback in general is. Did you say cornerback? I just realized now that's what you said, corner.
Well, no, I said, cornerback on defense is probably the toughest position for a rookie to come in and excel.
I think so. At least rookie year, you get used to it, but I couldn't imagine going from covering like if you're the best cornerback in the Big Ten, you go from covering, Minnesota's wide receiver. Now you have to cover, Metcalf. I mean, just forget about it. That is a whirlwind of a freaking difference.
You're right. You're playing against men now. These guys are, you're a senior in college, you're playing against a junior or even a sophomore. You're going to come up to the pros, you're playing against men. It's a big difference.
That is going to be tough. That's speed that you are just not used to. But if you pick up on it, great, because Lord knows we need you.
And let's not forget, he's not very built. Source is very lean. You look at his body; he's very lean. So, anyway, am I up now?
You are up.
Let's see. This is a kind of a silly one, but it's just fun to think about. It all depends where they get drafted, obviously. Will we see one of these linemen win a Super Bowl next year?
Well, that's a good question. I feel like actually the people who have the best odds to win a Super Bowl is if any Super Bowl contending teams right now draft a lineman with the last 8 picks of the draft. That's typically what happens. Those guys have a better chance than – look, if Evan Neal goes to the Jaguars, he's not winning a Super Bowl next year. It's kind of the curse of being the best player in the draft. You go to such a garbage team. It's funny. I say that with quarterbacks a lot of the time. The quarterbacks actually did better in the long run were the ones that went to teams that were already kind of established, and they maybe got to sit for a year or two, and then they went out and play. They fared much better than guys that got picked at 1.
Yeah.
You get picked by just awful teams, and you're just getting railed your entire career. But I can see it. Look, if again one of those teams that any team can kind of get like a lineman at that point. So I definitely feel like one of these guys could go to the Super Bowl, but it kind of comes back to, we'll see who gets drafted, and then I'll tell you whether or not, who has the best odds of going to the Super Bowl. Evan Neal, he has the worst odds. Best player, worst odds.
Maybe I should have gave that the question. Which player has the worst odds?
Evan Neal. Evan Neal's not going to.
That would have been an easy one for you.
Evan, congrats, man. You are getting paid, but you are not winning a Super Bowl next year. There is not a chance in hell.
I'm looking real quick. We saw that Rams signed Bobby Wagner. Yeah. Well, that's replacing who didn't they what's his name didn't come back, right? What's his name? He went to oh my goodness, guy from Denver. What was his name? The linebacker? Yeah, Von Miller was there. So he left and they got Wagner instead. So it's kind of a switch.
Everybody's willing to take a massive pay cut to go play for the Rams, They'll pay them like league minimum, and it's like, hey, you'll win a Super Bowl with this. So
Zane's on a roll here. He made a comment here. A lot of rumors swirling about Walker. Zane, if you're listening, what do you mean about Walker? What's going on? Yeah, search that internet right now. Hurry up.
Come on, Zane, type, man. We'll tell you what. You want to ask me? Let me see. I'll ask you your next question. The last one I got. This is the best lineman class since 2007.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I think it's pretty close. Yeah, that's a lot of
for reference. Let me pull up the 2007 NFL draft for everybody just real quick. Here is the list of linemen. Joe Thomas, Levi Brown. He didn't do anything. Let me scroll down here. Joe Staley. All right. Ryan Khalil. Marshall Yanda. Jermon Bushrod. Probably. There's one more. I know there's one more. Where the hell is he? No, regardless, that's a pretty good setup right there. This is a pretty good setup right here. What do you think?
Yeah, listen. Yeah, I mean, look. Of course it's too early to tell, but right now, looking at these guys, these prospects. I mean, every day in the draft, day 1, 2, 3, you're going to get a good player. There's good plays all throughout the draft. Oh, Zane, boy. You hear what you just said?
Zane saying Walker and Hutchinson are liked by the Jags at 1. I couldn't see that.
Oh, my gosh. Can you believe that?
Can you imagine?
Walker goes – listen, he's a freak. But that's the perfect example of what the combine does for prospects. If he even goes in the top 5, it's because of the combine. He was not, a workhorse in Georgia because the way the system is, he shared snaps, of course. He's going to be a good play, Walker. Just he may take a little more time. He's a little bit rough around the edges. He's not a pure pass rusher yet. He needs to learn a little more technique, but he's going to learn, and he's going to be a good player.
Yeah, Mark's saying that too. So, I mean, we'll see what happens here, but that is an odd rumor, and a lot of times these rumors actually do turn out to be true. I mean, I remember with Daniel Jones, I didn't think they were going to get him, but the rumors were the Giants would, and there's an example.
I'll tell you that when Daniel Jeremiah came on and said the Giants are going to pick this guy at 6. He did say that. I was like, really? And I really have a lot of respect for Daniel Jeremiah. I think he's a really excellent evaluator of talent. I think the guy is amazing. So when he says that, and then he talks about Walker, and look what we're seeing now. He's spot on again how talented this kid is.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, that would really shake up the draft. Can you see this happening? Let's see. Oh my God.
Zane and Shad Khan are I guess on speed dial together. So he knows firsthand. We brought Zane. Zane's got the sources. We do need that at New York Giants Rush. We need somebody who just has every single GM on speed dial.
We're not quite there yet. You know?
No, we're not quite there. We do get some players on here, though. I'm always proud of that. But yeah, we're not there yet.
Well, listen, I think my last question was kind of silly, and I ain't gonna bother you to talk about it. I think it's a silly one. It's a negative one about injuries, so I ain't gonna even touch it. But anyway, we have one more show left in our draft special, and we're gonna kind of consolidate the cornerback, safeties, wide receivers, and running backs. And you could take either side of the ball, whatever you feel comfortable at. You want to do defense, you want to do offense. That's going to be your call, and I'll do the other side. And that's, even though we don't talk about that a lot, especially the running back and position. There's talent there, and will the Giants draft a running back? I don't know. I think the percentages are low. They will, but they could.
Yeah, it's something we got to talk about. I mean, look, we don't have a decent running back going into next year. I don't think Saquon is actually good anymore, even if he is healthy. I think he is depleted.
You think he's done? You think he's done?
I just think so. He just doesn't have the maneuvers like he used to, unfortunately. The Saints game was like the last flash of greatness I saw out of him, and I just think that's it.
Well, I guess we'll find out.
We got to talk, because at this point, it's just best available, which is always what you should do with drafting, right? But we're going through the best of the rest of positions that aren't super high priority and not that important, but we got to talk about it.
Right? I get a kick out of the old debate, best player available versus need. If someone really wants to research that and look at all the successful teams and see, did they draft best player available or did they draft need? Throughout the years.
It's funny, during the Reese years, even the later ones, they said that he was always known for going for best available, but we still didn't get the best available. You know what I'm saying?
That's a contradiction. That's like an oxymoron with him.
Yeah, and then I feel like Gettleman always went for the guy that they saw some sort of upside in that never actually came to fruition. Right? They always got the guy that were like, why'd they get him? And then his defense was, well, I just saw something in him that we can work on the one thing that's weighing him down, but I just saw this one thing that made me really want this guy. And they never worked out. That one thing did drag them down. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, listen, not to beat a dead horse with Gettleman,
No, beat it. Screw it.
He stressed Hog Molly so much. It got so nauseating that he never really did anything. I know he drafted some and tried to sign some, but
we really didn't draft all that many offensive linemen at the end of the day. It was only a few.
Yeah. If you want to look at it, I think he only drafted around 8 in 4 years. That's pretty bad.
Yeah.
If you're trying to fix the offensive line.
We should have done like 8 right away, man.
Yeah, first year he did 1, right?
Yeah, we had we were.
Or was it 2?
It was
a second round and a 7th round, right?
One real one, and then he may have gotten one in the 7th, and nothing was ever going to happen with that guy if they did.
Then he went a year. Then he went a draft without even giving a lineman. He didn't even get a lineman. So
no, we did. We did. They signed 2 guys, and then we thought we were set, but we weren't. We sucked. But truth, we actually did the unthinkable. We always try to make it within an hour. We never do. We always go for an hour 18 exactly. We're at 58 minutes. Guys, I want to thank you so much. This is a very important episode, very important position. I am hoping, I am praying that the Giants finally just get this position fixed, man. All 5 of those guys.
Yes.
But fingers crossed, we will see what happens. Guys, thank you very much. Join us next week. We will be live with Pepper Johnson.
Oh,
Pepper
boy.
Johnson joining us in the studio. We will be there, guys. We are looking forward to you all coming on and joining us, all right? Stay safe. Go Giants, and have a great rest of your night.
Stay well, boys.